And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Rise to Nobility. Now this is called The Future of the Five Realms. It's the second game in their Five Realms series from Final Frontier Games, the first being Cavern Tavern. Has the same artwork, it's in the same fantasy world, and you are like people in this land trying to get folks to let people come in and move in and emigrate to this area, helping your reputation. You're some lord helping all these different people. So it's only thematically in the same universe as Cavern Tavern. It's a worker placement game with dice. I tend to really like those. Let's take a look. In this game, players are trying to get the most points, kept track of on this board here. And you're going to be doing that over the course of several rounds. What players are going to be doing is they're going to roll dice, and then they're going to use these dice and place them on the board. However, each player has their own player board here, and on their own player board, they're going to start with 9 reputation. Reputation is very important in this game. So let's say I roll the dice, and these are the numbers that I roll: a 6, a 4, a 5, a 5, and a 4. I can only use the 4 and the 5 because that equals 9 reputation. I'm going to have to increase my reputation to use more dice. If I roll low, here I got a 1, a 2, a 1, and a 4, so 4 plus 2 is 6, 7, 8. I could use those, or I could use the 6, 2, and the 1. So you're going to want to increase your reputation so that you can use more of your dice. Players will be taking turn placing dice on the board into various spots. Many of the spots on the board, let's zoom up on one and take a look here. For example, a 1 or a 2 goes here, a 3 or 4 goes here, a 5 or a 6 will go here. When you go to these spots, you can buy resources of the different types. There are multiple resources included with the game that you'll be able to buy, and they cost a coin each usually when you're buying them. You can also place workers, if you have them, into this guild where each turn between rounds you'll get money if you have the most workers in a guild. And as time goes by, you'll also be able to build buildings, and when you go here you'll be able to use the buildings above where you're at and maybe more buildings depending on how high your die is, and then whoever owns the building will also get the reward on top there. So placing dice out on the board is often determined by number. There are some places here up at the White Castle, for example, where you don't get burgers. Instead, you can increase your reputation by putting dice there. Most of the other places on the board are guilds where you will get the different resources. However, up here at the Cavern Tavern, you'll be able to get people. This is one of the main ways of this game to get points. If I want to put this person out, I'm going to need between 8 and 12 cubes resources of these types. So I'm going to split between these different types of resources, 8 of them, and the most I can have is 12. And once I have that, I'm going to move up on another track over here that's going to keep track of my special ability comes into effect at a certain point on that track. And I'll be able to place these people on my property so long as I have a house, which, by the way, you can pay 5 coins for. And at the top of the board, where is it? Over here, you can place a die as long as it's equal to or higher than the previous dice. Pay 5 coins and get more houses. You need to have these houses so that you can fulfill the dreams of these people and put a house in your property, and then you'll be able to score this card and get points and move up on the different tracks. You can also go and make underhanded dealings over here. This is another way to get points. You will essentially put a die in one of these spots. You're going to lose 2 reputation when you do so. Pay these goods, take points equal to what the tile shows on there. Down here, you have to have this exact die and pay this much money, and you'll get one of these places, which are buildings that you'll be able to put on the board and utilize and get special abilities for them. Some of them can also be placed on your main board itself to give you various points at the end of the game. You can also put your dice over here and trade a number of goods equal to the die you put there, and you'll be able to sell your goods for the amount of money that is shown on the ship, and that ship is going to be changing from round to round. So that's a very basic overview of the game. There's a lot more going on than that. But essentially, each turn you're going to be, between turns, you're going to get some resources and money based on where you have your apprentices spread throughout. And you are trying to get a certain number of points and trying to get your reputation higher, so you can, your dice, when you roll them, you'll be able to use all of them. And whoever's going to get the most points at the end of the game will win. I both like and don't like the board. I think the board is great. The art is great, but it's not easy to see where everything is. It's hard to remember what each of the sections do. You look over here, for example, at the Cavern Tavern, and there the dice have to be greater than or equal to the previous die. Over here is where you keep track of how many rounds are in the game. The ships are great, by the way, but all the buildings, you're going to constantly try to remember what they do, and there's just a lot of symbology on the board, and it's not the easiest. It's prettier than it is useful. The components themselves, I think I have an upgraded Kickstarter. I don't know if they upgraded everyone's, but I really do like these components and how each of the components is a shape of the item in the game, so that's kind of neat. I do not like that the player colors are the same colors as the resources. That's an amateur move. Companies need to stop doing that. But I think the best part of this game, component-wise, is the artwork. One of the things I like to do are these different emigrating groups of people who are coming in, and I really like how they all have different artwork. So these dwarves, that's a completely different card. And I think that's a neat thing. Having the different groups comes in, you're trying to get different reputation with these groups and stuff. So I like that that's in the game, and I like that this artwork is here. So the overall component quality, pretty nice. It's just not as functional as I would like. Real quick note, I also don't like the dice. I think the dice are too busy, but okay. Let's talk about this game here. I said at the beginning, I like worker placement games with dice. I do not like Rise of Nobility at all. I feel like it's an overwrought game with too much going on in it. The idea of the game is interesting, but the game itself feels like work rather than enjoyment. And let me explain that. So to get these people in, I need to go get these resources. So I go start getting resources. Well, I'm going to need money to get resources. So that means I need to get money somehow by putting these apprentices out, but you only get a little bit of money between turns. So then I got to go sell goods. You can sell goods for 1, 2, or 3. You're buying them for 1. So it's like I bought 2 resources for 1. I sold 2 resources for 4. I made 2 coins profit, woo! And it just feels like the economy is really slow. Then I gotta go buy a house so that these people can go into that house, all that to get some points. I wanna go buy this building that I can put out in a guild that will help me out, but I want the specific building and you need a 4 to get that building, and I can't get that building because I didn't roll a 4. And the dice rolling in this game, higher numbers are better than lower numbers for sure. I don't think they're that much better. And in fact, they feel worse because of this reputation thing. When I first heard about the reputation track, I was like, ooh, that's intriguing, right? The idea of there being this reputation track and you can use your dice up to that amount. As you saw that first roll in the example though, you could roll really high and only get to use a couple dice in your first turn. So what do you think you're gonna do? You're gonna increase your reputation. It's ridiculously an obvious thing that everyone does all the time. You have to get your reputation up so that you can use more dice. In a lot of worker games, you need more workers. This game does it in a different way by essentially restricting the workers you can use until you move your reputation up. And it's just tiresome to say, all right, I'm going to take a reputation. I'm going to take a reputation. I'm going to take a reputation. I'm the 4th player. Can I have reputation? Not this turn. You get to go first. You can take the reputation. I didn't like that. I also just thought the guilds and everything, they weren't that different. I'm going here to get some resource. I'm going here. It didn't feel like the elves coming to live at my area were any different than the dwarves. Like I said, the economy felt slow. The whole game feels sluggish. It feels like it should have been streamlined and it didn't. And here's the problem. I'm starting to worry about this as this line as a whole. This is the second game. Cavern Tavern had the same problem. Cavern Tavern was also a worker placement dice game. And it also struggled from the fact that it didn't seem to be streamlined, didn't seem like there was a lot of good options to do. And that's the way I feel with this one. It's like, I don't have money. Money is tight. A lot of these options cost money. I want to do some various things, but I feel like it's a work and a struggle and a slog to get there. I hated my playings of this game because it wasn't one of those games that's so bad it's funny type things. It was just a game where I was like, oh, I'll go here. Now I'll go here and sell that to get some money. Now I'll go here and buy a house. Now back to get some money. And nothing felt joyous about the game. Usually in these games, I want to be like, ooh, look what I built. Look what I've done. Watch my kingdom grow. Here it's like, oh, some people are moving in. Yay! I felt like an evil landlord who was helping people out because I was being forced to because of my previous criminal activities or something to that effect. It looks cool. I'll give it that. And there's some good ideas in here, but it definitely, in my opinion, lacks a strong editor who came in, a developer, and said, we need to cut some sections, we need to increase things, we want this game to feel snappier. Do not play this game with 6 players. That would be insanity. It would take forever. It already takes long enough as it is because there's a lot of options, even though at the end of the day, they're all very samey and it feels like a gray muddled mess, even with the bright colors involved. And unfortunately, I'm going to pass on Rise to Nobility. I really wanted to like it, but this one just I felt constrained, constricted, and like I was working. Dice Tower Judgment, too much going on.